Do 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 do. I think we're live. We certainly are live. I had to my Streamlabs didn't have the same title as my stream title in my schedule, so I had to go do a copy paste right before stream starts. And then I heard myself talking, so it's definitely working. Also, I skipped breakfast this morning, so for people that don't enjoy eating sounds, I will be finishing my breakfast on stream. I had one of those mornings where yesterday was a complete write-off. Monday this week was a write-off. It was one of those days where I knew all the things that I needed to do, but I couldn't fathom and muster the energy or the enthusiasm to do them. I sort of loosely call them like depression days, even though I'm not depressed. They're kind of like those days where you just don't want to wake up. No, days where you can't kind of even like do the small tasks that you need to do. Today has been a lot better. I think it's when I don't start my days with a conversation with a person, whereas today I started my day having like a conversation with somebody who is not like the person that I live with, which is my partner. So had a nice conversation that kind of kick-started my brain. And then usually streaming also kick-starts my brain for things, but there were a couple of things that I didn't manage to get finished, as well as finishing my breakfast. There's a couple of things I didn't manage to get finished before stream was supposed to start. So we're going to do a couple of things on stream today. We're going to do the things that I said I was going to do on Twitter. But we also might end up doing a couple of other things. One thing is I just want to kind of I joined a Cyberpunk Red game recently, and I want to check out one of the resources that you can use to build your characters online. And then I'm just actually finishing filling out a form for a hackathon that I'm going to go attend in August. And I would love to share my screen to show like information about the hackathon that I'm going to join. But it might ask for personal information that I'm not willing to share on the screen. So I'm gonna double check what it's asking for. But right now it's asking for a few different things. It's asking for my GitHub, which I can happily share. And it's asking for like some short self-introduction, 3 keywords about myself. And just so I can show the scene, 3 keywords about myself. I kind of put, it's a civic tech hackathon in Japan. It's the Facing the Ocean one, but open source designer of 7+ years, question mark, actually should be after that. I don't know actually whether I've been doing contributions to open source for around 7 years or not. Loves making sure open source software tech has access to designers. But what else do I share about me? Loves gardening, and what else do I reading? Fiction. Speaking of reading fiction, I set a goal this year on my Goodreads account, which included, I think, reading 1 book a month, or at least like, I think 11 or 12 books this year, which kind of averaged out to like 1 book a month. But sometimes 1 book a month is a bit much. And so I think I've managed to do 10 books so far, but some of them it was books that I was finishing from last year, so I don't know whether that should really count, but okay, so how can people get in touch with me? People can go onto my GitHub. My GitHub actually has, I think, all of the links for everything else. We can just grab the link for my X or Twitter. Do I have my Instagram there? I don't. I wonder if I should add my Instagram. Pronouns are... Oh, this is new, GitHub. Otherwise I would have done it. Visual product and... Is this still accurate? Let's see. You know when you look back at like a profile information that you wrote many years ago, and then you're like, oh, I guess like I am still a visual designer. I'm more of a generalist designer, visuals, product, and I guess you could put UI slash UX. Oh, I've run out of characters. So really what I want to do is actually link the open source design.net maintainer product. Okay, right, so let's get rid of visual. If we've only got a certain number of characters, then we're gonna optimize. Open source software, open source design.net maintainer. I guess like that's the most accurate thing that I am now, that you could say. Does coding and design do better open source software processes? Oh, and I should probably also add the Sustain Open Source Design podcast, which I think we're going to have some new... Oh, right, probably, yeah. I'm awful for typos. Slight typo on the first line under I'm currently... Oh, yeah, there will definitely be some some typos. I will double check actually as well though. Thank you, Signal Focus. I will double check. This is and we'll see if this fits. Oh no, it's not the right link. Okay. But yeah, I was just about to say that I think we are trying to get some more guests on the open source software, sustaining open source software podcast, which would be really cool. How does dev and design do better open source software together? Oh, it does fit. Amazing. We'll give that a full stop then, since we've got enough space. And then I suppose since I have actually been working on my Instagram, we'll drop the Instagram profile in there. There we go. That's so cool. It automatically understands what social thing there is. It does a little icon. Hello, Tomazu. Yeah, my ADHD brain also misses words. There are just some words that I consistently spell incorrectly now, and I have to be really careful because I think I've accidentally added them to my like personal like dictionary as well. So, you know, now, like, unless I see the spelling mistakes, I don't notice the spelling mistakes, which is tricky. So, right, I'm currently looking for ways. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a terrible sentence. Looking for a device and opportunities to start writing a book on doing open source design and design in the open. Please email me. We love a smiley face as well. It's a better structured sentence. Working part-time at Super Bloom. I do design previously. Let's actually just chuck this in, like, if there's a typo, let's just chuck it in a Word doc and see, or like a Pages doc and see whether there's a typo. Oh yeah, I spelled university wrong. University. Cool. Okay, there we go. No, thank you. So what am I actually currently doing? Working part-time, PhD, helping the community keep going, participating in this community sort of is taking an extended hiatus, although it might come back soon. I am good. I hope you are good too. I am feeling better than I did yesterday, which was a day where very little got done from my to-do list. I had a day of what's the word, like brain fog and not necessarily procrastination, but like stuckness. So things are better today, definitely. Cool. Let's commit these changes now that I've done that, and we will finish our application to this, but we will leave that. So this is a hackathon that's happening in Japan around open source software, civic tech. So I'm excited to potentially go. I'm submitting attendance note. I've submitted the attendance note. I just so happen to be kind of on that side of the planet when it's happening. So signing up for hackathons when I happen to be in certain areas is, I suppose, how I like to spend my free time. But yes, as I said, there's a couple of things that we're going to try and do on stream that weren't necessarily in the tweet that I did, just because I didn't find time to do them before stream started. So we're gonna double check and check on the various pull requests in open source design. We're gonna also check on the forum and see how things are doing on the forum, because it's been a while since I checked in on various things to do with maintaining the community over open source design. But we're also going to try and give this a read. It's not too long a read. It was shared on the New Design Congress Discord server. It's about design, middle management. Design thinking is not apolitical, it's centrism in disguise, and I'm curious to kind of read a little more about it, although it's dated from quite a while ago. But it's likely worth a read. So yeah, we're gonna look at some pull requests. We're gonna look at the forum. We're gonna read this article and think of some or have any responses that we might have, and then we're probably going to be moving on to prepping for COSCUP. So if you're unaware of what COSCUP is, coscup.org. Take a look. It's a conference that's happening in Taiwan at NTU. It's a really cool conference. If you can, what's the word? Compare conferences, open source software conferences together, then it's I suppose very FOSDEM like. I find it weird that many open source software conferences are always compared to FOSDEM. Which is probably actually worth thinking about starting a FOSDEM thread in the Open Source Design Forum just to get a really good head start on FOSDEM for next year. So obviously FOSDEM won't have opened their DevRoom applications or stand applications for 2025 yet, but it's worth thinking about like how to prepare for it, because every year it feels like open source design, we get everything ready for it, but I think it always kind of feels like a little bit of a rush. But then again, I think if we're lucky, FOSDEM sort of announces that it's definitely happening towards like the fall or autumn, like September, October time. And that's usually when they open the stand applications, I think. And then I don't know whether they open the DevRoom applications at the same time or whether they come a little bit later. But also, yeah, it always feels like a bit of a rush to, one, confirm that there's going to be enough volunteers at FOSDEM or able to go to FOSDEM to run both a DevRoom and a stand. And then it's also a bit of a rush to try and, if the DevRoom gets accepted, which usually happens towards the end of November, beginning of December, we then usually have like 2 to 3 weeks to receive submissions for talks for the DevRoom and then confirm them, which for a conference that we can't really offer travel stipends for yet. Collective. Let's have a look at Open Collective, Open Source Design. For a conference we can't offer stipends for, it's, asking people to make their own way to a conference to come and speak is tricky. They have to be supported by their organization or their project. But I did start this goal for specifically donating to travel expenses for design speakers at open source software conferences. So with a little bit of information here. So after discussions in the Open Source Design Community Forum, post FOSDEM 2024, we want to offer a way for supporters to directly support a speaker to attend and speak at a conference like FOSDEM. We have at least 2 speakers apply per year to the Open Source Design DevRoom that cannot fund their own travel, accommodation, visas, and insurance and expenses. We'd like to be able to build a fund that we can cover those costs for at least 1 speaker per year. So, I mean, one of the tricky things is that we've had like conversations internally at Open Source Design that are arguably we like have enough money in our core sort of funds to like fund a speaker or 2, depending on where they're coming from. But we have yet to be able to, decide and confirm that we are happy for that to be spent on that. It's so tricky making decisions in an open source community that has historically actually never had like a lot of funds. So we never really had problems deciding on how to spend funds. We tend to be able to like internally approve anything that's like merch and swag, like t-shirts or stickers or anything to do with like conference members going to conferences and doing promo, like that. Usually up to about like 300 USD or 500 USD is pretty easy to kind of get approved internally by everyone. But anything that's more than that is sort of like we don't necessarily have a clear process for making that decision. And I think rightly so, the open source design community wants to know how to communicate and do comms around if we were to like okay, well, you've made a donation, a backer donation, or a sponsor donation, or a one-time sponsor donation, which doesn't have information about like what it goes to essentially. You've made a donation at some point in the history to support open source design's like efforts, but like we haven't like stated what that would go to. Whereas if people are donating specifically to this one specifically states that it's going to support travel funds for design speakers to go to open source conferences. So I guess like that's a tricky thing that we haven't done in the past. Like I felt like reasonably empowered to be able to create this. Nobody really like vetoed this decision in the community, but being able to add information to these, I don't know whether I could make that a decision myself. Anyway, I was gonna say, let's make a FOSDEM 2025 post. Let's also have a look at what's going on the FOSDEM website. Okay, so they haven't announced yet, or so like truly not surprising given, you know, it was only it was about 6-ish months ago that they did it, but still. Let's consider making a post that sort of preps. So FOSDEM 2025. Let's get a head start. Can you add smiley faces into... I don't think you can, actually. I think you can... Let's get a head start. Let's get a head start on planning. So we're going to want to add this to Design Lounge, and probably we've got... I thought we had a... Oh, yeah, events. Events/conferences. There we go. We're gonna want that one. Hey folks, I wanted to get a head start on preparations for FOSDEM 2025. So we don't yet know if FOSDEM 2025 is happening for sure. No updates to their website about what we can do as open source design is, let's like do a little list. We can start a dev room application document using previous year's information, which is on Nextcloud. Let's see if we can grab Nextcloud. The Nextcloud document. Oh look, there's a dev room organizing to do for this. Cool. I don't know if we ended up doing a lot of these things. I think the tricky thing is I don't live in Nextcloud as like a tool, so it's really tricky to actually like keep up with a to-do list hosted in Nextcloud. Okay, right, we've got a stand document. Let's grab where that is, just generally in Nextcloud. Let's figure that out. Let's make a folder actually. Let's make a new folder, which is going to be FOSDEM 2025. There we go. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay, cool. Stand schedule voting. Ooh, there's got to be, where's core team, read me, welcome, feedback form, oh gosh, I think our Nextcloud filing system needs a little bit of cleaning up, I think. There we go. Okay, so we've somehow got a folder called Event Organizing underneath Open Source Design with various FOSDEM folders, which, to be fair, is not hugely useful. Why is there a meme in here? Okay, so talk slides. Let's have a look in here. Stands application. Okay, these are the things that we want. So essentially, oh yeah, it's a really interesting conference. It's a good conference as well. If you submit, you can submit a talk to the opens. If in 2025 we get the dev room for design approved, you can submit a talk to the design dev room. Tomazo, I don't know whether you're what kind of you would identify more as, but we encourage anyone to submit talks to, as long as they're design and open source related. It doesn't have to be like highly technical. In fact, one of my favorite talks from this year was a person that was talking a lot about the design of various like command line interface elements. I can't remember it, but let me find it. It was really good. It's a really good talk. I think the reason that I enjoyed that talk the most is because I think I love it the most when people liquid prompt. I love it the most when people that do not identify as designers talk about like design in open source, because it normalizes that open source is not all about code all the time. But yeah, liquid prompt, shell prompt. It's a really good talk. I highly recommend. Actually, do you know what? I'll pop the link in the chat just in case people want to watch that talk at some point. It's really good talk. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, right. So we want the DevRoom application and the stands application. Can we move or copy? I kind of feel like I want to do some Nextcloud like cleaning up. Right, so I kind of feel like events organizing needs to go to the top level navigation of our Nextcloud, rather than being sort of nested in this open source design folder. That is if it move or copy. So let's move it to the top here. No, we probably want to move this as well. Good grief, that's taking a while. Anyway, using previous year's information, we can also start a stand. Application document. We can also begin to gather volunteers that are going to be at FOSDEM. Begin to strategize and fundraise for speakers that need travel plus accommodation stipends. Strategize and fundraise. Prep any volunteering rotas. Prep what? the events post plus so we do an events post and we also do a submission form. No, we don't do a submission form. We do events post, like for speakers to submit via, because FullStem now use, oh gosh, what's it called? Pre-talks. They use pre-talks, which is great. So much better than the previous system that FullStem used for talk submissions, which was called the very appealing name Pentabarf was the name of the system that they used to accept talks in. As I know that it was like built by somebody, and so I'm trying to be like nice, but it was really such a difficult system to use for both like the dev room organizers and also the speakers to submit talks. I think we ended up a couple of times over the years like submitting on behalf of various speakers, just because it was a complicated system to actually like get into. It had very read the manual vibes as a system, Pentabarf. In fact, I do think that you actually had to read like a documentation blog post in order to like properly really understand how the system was working. I'm happy to be involved again for 2025, but also very happy for someone else to take the reins. It's a great opportunity for design folks to get experience in the open source software event space, and then we would decide and support a dev room host if dev room is accepted. Right, okay, so have these moved yet? Oh great, fantastic. I also think this should probably move. Possible speakers for this should probably just go into event organizing, and then we have workshops, discussions and monthly meetings. That can stay there. So event organizing already has like a few different folders in it. So let's move that in there, and then I think, yeah, okay, so these were the voting. So let's actually, what we'll do, voting. We're gonna rename these folders to the voting folders. Stand schedule. So that should move into event organizing. And what was this folder? 2023? The 2024. Sorry, making horrible noises. 2024. Copy into FullStem 2024. Oh, if I just copied it into the same folder, yeah, okay. FullStem's schedule. Let's get rid of those. Oh, it's two files that are in the same. Delete them. Delete them. Okay, we need to go into event organizing 2024. Hey, why did that not get renamed? I just renamed this folder. Is it because how do you, okay, Great. Love Nextcloud. Sometimes Nextcloud do be real tricky to use. Okay, so those got deleted. Love that it exists. Hate that it's complicated to use. Ay ay ay. What's the convention for? Okay, it's using enter. Right. Okay, fine. So this needs to be moved, and it needs to be moved into event organizing in 2024 and move there. And then we can then move these two folders into event organizing as well. There we go. Nice. Perfect. Okay, we did a little bit of cleaning up there. In fact, let's drop that in there, and let's drop that in there, and then we'll pop that in there as well. So what we want to do, emails to speakers, FOSDEM organizing. Got a lot of FOSDEM organizing documents, it seems. List of places. Interesting. Okay. Let's grab the dev room application, stands application. We're going to move or copy, and then we're going to move or copy it into 2025 copy. So hopefully that shouldn't remove them from here, but it should make a copy of those files in here. Okay, so what we want to do then is probably open each of these separately, close down Nextcloud, and hope that we don't need to open it again. Change this to 2025, change this to 2025. Do some changing of this information. It's probably going to still be in the UBL. Oh, it would be very surprising if it was not. It would be so surprising. It would also be very surprising if it does not happen in February. Let's do a little note. Note this. This application contains information from 2024 standard submission. Okay, and then we'll grab this, and then we'll do this submission. Okay, cool. So we've slightly updated these, and I will share others with access, internal link, access to this file. We should just surely that I don't think there's anything sensitive in here on this link. View only, can edit. We've got versions of this elsewhere, so even if somebody goes and deletes it, it's fine. I think I shared. Okay, can edit. Copy the dev room, right? So the dev room link, and then the stands link. So dev room link has been used, stand as a link. Okay. We have a specific option on Open Collective now. Okay. There we go. Let's create this topic. Okay. We did that. I asked some questions about sustainability. Love that Jan replied. One important is concern for the perspective of newcomers. Yes, stay in a community since some experienced people will leave at some point. They are not often cared for since the core concerns often lie on other experienced developers. Legitimate peripheral participation when becoming a Wikipedia editor. Interesting. In legitimate peripheral participations, new members learn by direct participation in the community. This is the participation aspect of legitimate participation. I'm gonna steal this that Jan has written and actually drop it in the workshop that I'm planning for August, because essentially this is what the workshop in August is hoping to do, that potential new open source design contributors learn by direct participation in the community. So actually, maybe thinking about this a little bit more deeply, let's put a note here to say not just about contribution to the open source software projects, also participation in open source design as a method of like inclusion and community cohesion. Perfect. Okay, groovy. That's given me a nice little brainwave. Thanks, Jan. Oh, Thomas, you're more of a developer. Cool. I mean, if you have thoughts about design though, like, well, we would welcome those talks. Like, I think in the past we've seen talks from developers which are kind of like the things that I want to know about design as a developer in an open source software project, or like ways that designers could collaborate with me, or things that I can offer designers, ways in which I can help involve designers in open source software through what like you do as a developer. So it doesn't have to be about like design, it can be about your experience and how like you interact with design. So anyway, let's close this up. Right, so I'm gonna head over to read this article in a little bit, but I want to see if I can merge this job. So I saw this job come through, I think I saw it come through yesterday or maybe over the weekend. But it's a new submission to the Open Source Design Jobs Board, and I didn't want to merge it immediately because I had some concerns or thoughts about it. So seeking a UI UX enthusiast for an open source Figma plugin. And the thing is, I wanted to check is like, so it's a Figma plugin. Figma is not open source. But plugins are openly accessible via design software, which is great. But I just want to make sure that there is a little bit more. Yes, perfect. Yes, if Image Pro Export is underneath an open license, that's what I'm looking for. So it isn't necessarily the link to Figma that I'm really interested in, it's the link to the GitHub and the license that I want to double check. Okay, it's under the MIT license. Groovy. But yeah, that's the main thing I was looking for. So if it was only like findable on Figma, then I would consider rejecting this. It's an open source Figma plugin designed to enhance image editing capabilities within Figma. Actually very needed We are seeking a passionate UI UX enthusiast to provide guidance and support for our plugin. The plugin currently has some great features, but we plan to add many more in the future. If you love contributing to open source projects and have a knack for UI UX design, we'd love to collaborate with you. Feel free to reach out. Suggestions for UI UX improvements. Okay, cool. We have an email address, perfect. We have a GitHub handle, perfect. Date, everything, fantastic. Okay, I'm very happy, very, very happy to merge this now that I've seen this license. Happy to approve after finding the Should we check out this plugin? It looks pretty cool. Upcoming features. This is cool as well. Like, so essentially they've got a roadmap here of things that they want to work on, but they haven't necessarily, like, you know, a roadmap doesn't have to look like a Kanban board or whatever, or like a post-it note, like calendar. It can just literally, a roadmap can just be a list of like things that you want to make or do in the open source software. And I think sometimes a lot of open source software projects get like in their own heads about like how complicated this like upcoming features list has to be. Oh, that Tomazu, that's so fair that you would rather not go on stage. If it's any consolation or like reassurance for speaking, the dev rooms don't actually like have stages. They are literally like a room where like of desks at a university, so it doesn't necessarily feel like you're going like on a stage. It's a lot more like of a relaxed feeling. Like it's essentially you're just talking to a room of people that are all listening to you. As a person that's done a fair amount of like conference talks on various sizes of stages, you can't really get more relaxed than FOSDEM as like a setting. Essentially, it's very supportive as well. So if you know, if that sort of helps, it's not particularly intimidating as like an experience to go and speak at FOSDEM in a dev room. If you apply for like the main stage, I think the main stages are quite big, but I've never spoken at the main stage of FOSDEM. I would happily speak at the main stage of FOSDEM, but I don't think, you know, I don't actually know how you apply for like the main stage. I think you have to be invited. I'm not sure. Okay, so roadmaps and upcoming features. Yeah, so this is really good. If more open source software projects could like not feel like the need to in detail like explain what they expect these features to do and just give like an idea of things that they would like to see happen on their open source projects, this is really helpful for a lot of like it's helpful for non-coders as well as coders, right? So anyone can get a good understanding of the kinds of things that they could hopefully work on at some point. Share single or multiple images. AI Pro. Interesting. So they're a plugin that's trying to do, I guess, not to kind of, you know, name drop an Adobe product, but it sounds like they're trying to do some Photoshop type stuff in Figma, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I will definitely consider donating. Seeking, oh yeah, look at that, that's cool. Seeking UI UX designers to help improve the experience. Merge, absolute merge. They're doing all the good things. Feature checklist. These are all the things that they have done as well, right? AI Pro features. Or at least some of the things are ticked, right? It's really good. They're using a README file incredibly well. It looks like they're pretty new, those. They haven't got any issues. When did they start? Yesterday, 3 weeks ago. Gosh, it's very new. That's cool though. It's really cool. You know, a new project isn't necessarily a, you know, you can be a very new project and be incredibly needed, right? Very cool, very cool. I'm going to keep it open just because off stream I might do like a little coffee donation. Hey, is this new on GitHub? Like the little tabs? I think this is new on GitHub. When GitHub do a new thing and like you don't realize, GitHub like introduce a new feature and you're like, when did that happen? Oh, I could have sworn there weren't tabs like here before. Again, yeah, totally understandable. Tomazu attending a conference before speaking at one is incredibly valid. Interesting. New features on the GitHubs. Okie dokie. Let's see if there's any other. I don't think that this is an old pull request. I think. Oh, did they get back to me? I don't think they did. I don't really know what to do. I don't think that this is spam. But they didn't get back to me, and it has been, it's only been 2 weeks. Maybe they need a little bit more time to get back to me. Do you know what? If they're not checking Twitter, which is totally reasonable that they wouldn't check Twitter, let's see if there's another place where we can contact them. We can follow them here. They have like a lot of following. Oh, they've got an email. Okay, perfect. We're going to email them about this job off stream. So y'all don't see my email inbox. Oh, in fact, actually, let's just do one of these while I do that, so y'all don't see my email inbox. But I get to do the task, because sometimes when I say I'm going to do a task off stream, I'll completely forget to do it, and then by the time the next stream comes along, I'm like, ooh, I didn't do that thing. Oh, I've opened the wrong email inbox. I don't do emails from around open source design from that email account, so we do it from this email account. Okay. Okay. I sent an email to the person listed as a maintainer. Hopefully they respond. That should be all good. Let's have a little look in the regular repository and see if there's anything new happening and I've missed it. Oh, SAPTAC approved the pull request to remove the DS store. I think from that the last person's. This is so cool. I love this. I swear if this has always been on GitHub, I've never noticed it before, and it's really good. Yeah, because I think some folks made some contributions to the README, editing the website, including some images. OpenSourceDesign.net website. Does that actually take you to? Yeah, it does. I should have checked that before merging the pull request. So yeah, there's a little bit more information now in the actual README. Like the original README, if I remember correctly, just didn't like link to things like Jekyll or things like other like documentation sites and things like that. In 2019, we were planning on moving the jobs repository into this main repository, but I don't know whether that will happen. Cool. Right, let's have a little look. Yeah, this looks good to me. It looks like... Oh, this looks good. I don't know why this other looks good to me. Submit review. And then we'll ask for a couple of people to check over it. We'll ask for SAPTAC. We'll ask for our Hell, and we'll maybe ask for Angelo as well. These are sort of my three go-tos for checking PRs. I thought somebody submitted a pull request for this. Did it get merged? It did. Yeah, I think it worked. Okay, so that can be closed. Closing as the fix was merged. Gosh, I haven't closed an issue in a really long time. It feels really nice to close an issue. Oh, if Angelo and SAPTAC are too busy to kind of like look at an actual issue, I wonder who might be able to look at an issue. Maybe... Maybe Elio has some advice. It seems Angelo and Sataka busy, so maybe Elio might be able to help, or perhaps know anyone else that can help out. Oh, do you know Elio or Yan C might be able to help. Cool. So this pull request would close that issue. Once merged, this issue should close. Let's just comment. Okay. Oh, this one can be closed. This got merged, right? We love closing issues. Right, I'm gonna add in I'm going to go to our open collective because I should add some information about the fact that we don't accept contributions from casinos anymore, or really ever. We never wanted to. Cool. Right. So I am going to come off of the screen share again, just so I can log into Open Collective, and then make a little post about not accepting casino donations, so that it's to some extent a little bit remedied, I suppose. Where is this section? There is the section where you add like a block. Oh my gosh. Is it because actually I think I logged in using the incorrect info? It's possible that I have to go there. Okay. Yeah. I logged into the I looked into the wrong news. Okay. Where do you do it? Updates. Okay, I think there's still a draft in here from years ago. Create an update. Yeah, this is still a draft from 2021. This is a draft like update from the Open Source Design Open Collective that I was gonna publish when we were having conversations about how to spend our funds. Pardon me the yawn. Let's create a new update. Okie dokie. There we go. Do you know what I'll do? I'll just do a really quick screenshot of this, and then post it to the group. Save draft. And then as soon as the open source design core team are happy for that to be published, I will publish it. Oh, we might have to finish the stream a little early today because I hurt my back a little while ago. Oh, and it's starting to get really, really painful. But we wanted to read this. And then what else did we want to do on stream? And stream actually, oh gosh. So we've been on stream for about an hour. We were going to do, I think, 2 hours. But let's have a little read of this and see what we think. So imagine the tech utopia of mainstream science fiction, the bustle of self-driving cars, helpful robot assistants and holograms throughout the sparkling city square. Immediately marks this world apart from ours, but something else is different, something that can be described in terms of ambience. Everything is frictionless here. The streets are filled with commuters, as is the sky. Who is posting links in my chat? No, thank you. No thanks. No thanks for posting links in my chat. Everything works because it was designed to work, and in this world, design governs the space we inhabit as surely and as exactly as the laws of physics. Easterling's new book from back in 2021, Medium Design, Knowing How to Work on the World, begins with the assertion that everyone is a designer, including you. Fine. Yeah, agreed. This is not a new concept. Similar currents have run through the design since 1960s, exemplified by Hans Holleins' 1968 proclamation that everything is architecture. Everyone is a designer, she says, not of buildings or topography or clothing, but of environments. We move from place to place, encountering new situations. Bold declaration: through careful examination of our environments and the latent potentials, designers can find solutions to seemingly intractable political problems by working around them. In her words, rewiring some of the abusive structures of capital. This methodology, which we call medium design, is applied throughout the book to quandaries such as land ownership and inequality, urban transportation, global migration. In other words, design, the same theory and process that has created everything from the Swiss Army knife to the iPhone, could also alleviate poverty and displacement, replace crumbling infrastructure, and perhaps eliminate the need for politics altogether. I mean, it could, sure. Medium design is through historical fiction narratives. Jane Eyre, yep. These figures are political temperament. She claims they redesign the dynamics of their circumstances, find power in the quieter work of subverting expectations. On the bus, as galaxy brained and jargon laden as these her worldview is far from fringe. Design thinking has long found eager acceptance in Silicon Valley and corporate America. I love using galaxy brained as like a what's the word, like a descriptor, like a descriptive term. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. Yeah, loved it in the mainstream by Tim Brown and the design company IDEO. Oh, IDEO. Can there ever be a article about design that doesn't mention IDEO in some way, shape, or form? Jeez. Perhaps it is most helpful to think of medium design and design thinking as a respective theory and process elements of one larger design as politics worldview, one that is willfully ignorant and fundamentally centrist. This view has been refining itself since the late 20th century. End of history. The world's problems with technical technological innovation, mass political action. Gears of design as politics, leaving the concentration of power unacknowledged and unquestioned. Global health and sanitation and access to water and toilets often signature social causes of the design thinking industry. Previously mentioned merry-go-round, water pump, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Sure. Design as politics is a bargaining with politics, as one might do with grief. Failure to solve anything never seems to threaten the stability of this position. Sure. Urban transportation in America. She adopts neither a left-wing or collective vision of robust public mass transit. What if capitalism could be designed around? One could infer that the seminal impulse of design as politics is bargaining with the nature of politics, as one might do with grief. By disentangling oneself from the false promises of design as politics has liberating potential. Once you come to terms with what design cannot do, you free yourself up to focus on what it can do. The most interesting thing about medium design is that some of its ideas are utterly reasonable, even helpful when divorced from their cryptocentrist context. Interesting. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Design when everyone designs. And what was the book that I read recently and I wrote about it on my GitHub? I've completely forgotten. It's in my repository for my PhD stuff. It's in papers, books, lectures, and analysis. Corruption of co-design. Anyway, we read an article. It wasn't very clear what it was, unsure what it was trying to say. I think it was just mostly referencing this medium design book. Let's have a look and see whether we can find the medium design. Medium design, knowing how to work on the world. Keller Easterling, yeah, this one. When was it published? 2021. Okay. What's the relationship between this? I mean, I know a lot of people want to write books because I want to write a book as well. But like, I get it. I get that people want to write about the nature of design and innovation and types of design and design and its relationship to urban planning, architecture, co-design, social design, and all of that sort of stuff, and propose new processes. But like, there's so many books. It seems like there's so many books lately that are sort of proposing, like, analysing and reanalyzing like the recent sort of history of social design and things like that. And if you try to read them all, I just don't know whether you'd have enough time to read them all. Like, let me like, at the very least, I know I feel terrible for being on an Amazon site for books, but anyway, I'll try and pick it up at my local bookshop. I mean, even part of my job is to read things, and I struggle to read and properly digest all of the different kinds of writing about, like, the state of design. It just kind of makes me feel tired, mostly. Okay, we've hit midday. I'm just going to send a really quick message to a Signal chat, so going off screen share and just sending a message so that I can move on with something else. Hey folks, can I publish this on our open collective? I realized when checking over issues today that we never sort of published decision on not taking casino/gambling donations. So I wrote this up quickly. We okay for me to hit publish if I don't get comments within the day, within a couple of days of this message, I'll assume it's good to publish. There we go. Okay, we'll probably only do another half an hour of stream because I'm starting to get a headache and kind of get a backache as well. But we're going to do a little bit of work on the workshop for Cos Cup. So maybe if we can just finish the agenda and maybe start building in some slides. Yeah, because this is an old workshop template. Although saying that, I just went ahead and started doing stuff here. Okay. I love how I say, oh, I'm going to do this, and then I start doing something completely different. Okay. But actually, we kind of want to use the sticky notes format for this. So actually, let's get rid of that, and we'll use sticky note. We want to use sticky note format for these because we're gonna try and get some people. In the workshop, we want people to actually write these down on sticky notes. So this workshop is going to be an interesting workshop. So this workshop is going to be a little bit of a throwback to some work that I used to do around open design. So we're trying to focus more on a workshop that is for designers to get ready to contribute to open source. So previously, when we've done workshops at open source conferences, we tend to focus. There's a few different ways in which and when I say we, it usually means like me plus the other folks that have like helped me do workshops before at conferences. There are a couple of different open source design team members, like community members. And that's not really fair. Helped me do workshops, co-designed workshops. We have co-designed workshops together. There's a few folks in the open source design space that have co-designed workshops with me, and there's also some folks from Superbloom, the organization I work for, that have co-designed workshops with me around design in open source. And yeah, we focus typically, sorry, this is me trying to talk about something whilst also doing editing at the same time. Multitasking most of the time goes well, but doesn't always go well. But we have a few different ways that we focus on open source and design, like advocacy and workshops. We either do a workshop from the perspective of open source software and like a developer coder perspective, where the primary audience is intended on being people that typically code as part of their open source software contributions. And what we try and do in those workshops is we try and plan the workshop around, well, you know open source. You have an open source software or multiple open source software projects that you either already contribute to or intend to contribute to, but you have a good understanding of what contribution to open source looks like from your perspective as a coder. But this is what contribution to open source software can look like from the perspective of contributing design. So we tend to focus on, what if you started to contribute design? What are the things that you could contribute as designers? And we try and give and guide developers and coders and documentation writers, but basically anybody that doesn't identify as a designer. We try to guide them around like typical things that most designers could or would want to contribute to open source and that would benefit open source from our experience. And the idea of those kinds of workshops are essentially not necessarily teaching developers how to be designers. We don't actually have like the objective and the aim of developers or coders or any other people that contribute to open source then becoming contributors of design to open source. But ideally, if they encounter designers that want to contribute to the open source, they have a better understanding and connection to what they would want to, what those designers would want to do. And so they can sort of say, oh, you're a designer, you want to contribute to the project that I'm part of. I did, this design exercise at this workshop, and I understand how design can help our open source more. And so it's like that first step into welcoming designers into open source spaces and maybe even participating with those designers alongside, or even another goal that we have around doing workshops that are focused around developers and coders for open source design is we hope that they feel empowered enough after a workshop about open source design contributions to create either a contributing documentation that is design focused, UI UX focused, design research focused, whatever they feel like is most relevant and needed within their open source, or create issues for designers like to actually contribute to, good first issues for designers, or even if it's difficult for them to start a contributing MD in a project or start to write design issues in a project, at the very least a goal is that they start to have conversations with the rest of the people that are maintaining or contributing to that open source software around design, so that at some point there could be a level of comfort about like creating a design request like for contributions. So those are the goals of when we do workshops that are focused on developers or open source software projects. Then we've got the other aspect of our workshops. So we've kind of got, I think we've got like three. I used to have three different aspects of workshops about design in open source. Was it three? I guess like, what was the third one? So like there was open source design workshops focused on developers and coders and open source projects, and then there's what we're hoping to do for Cos Cup this year, which is more of a workshop for designers that want to contribute to open source software and getting them comfortable with the aspects of contribution that are kind of scary, essentially, that a lot of coders and developers take for granted in open source, like as like knowledge that they learn either just through participating in coding or through education or through other means of being involved in open source. We try and kind of cultivate a space where designers feel empowered to understand what an open source project is and what it would need, and then like contribute their expertise and skills and kind of get them to that level of comfort of contribution. But it's really tricky, like for to be able to, both are really tricky, like doing a workshop for developers and coders to learn more about design, to get comfortable about how design can be involved in their open source project, and also designers being more comfortable approaching open source projects. Both are really, really tricky to do in a limited amount of time, right? So a workshop, typically, if you're lucky, you get like a full day for a workshop, which is anything from like 4 hours to 6 hours. And honestly, 6 hours is a long day to do a workshop or like something. It's really long. I like trying to do anything that's more than 4 hours long with like a few breaks in between is just about the limit that I think is reasonable for like a conference or a workshop or like even a kind of hackathon day. Especially if it's people that are new either to the concept of design in open source, or designers that are new to the concept of open source or relatively new to the concept of open source. And the tricky thing about an open source conference is you don't actually really know like the background of the people that are going to be attending the workshop, and you can pitch the workshop to be like beginner level, advanced level, that kind of stuff. But the thing that I've experienced in trying to set up workshops is that you're always going to get people at a varied level of experience and interest. And essentially, from my experience, workshops at conferences, unless you're teaching a process or a skill or taking people through templates in order to teach processes, skills, and interactions, that's a little bit easier to do because typically they will have not encountered your process in the way that you will be presenting it. But in my experience, workshops at open source conferences are kind of like a exercise in making a exercise that's accessible enough and general enough for like beginner levels, but that is scalable as an exercise to people that get it really quickly or have done it before and that want something slightly more challenging. And then being able to address your attention as the workshop facilitators to the people that either need the help because they're very new at this, or the people that need like some more like advanced content because they're actually like very much used to the content and they are looking for something a little more advanced. Honestly, I think workshops are really, really difficult to do. Good on anyone that pitches and decides to run workshops at like tech conferences, design conferences, or in open source software spaces, because it is really, really tricky. Especially if you intend to have it more guided. But the intention for this workshop, so we've got the first section here, the first half an hour is dedicated to welcomes, objectives, principles of openness and things like that, and then the full agenda. And then we're going to get people into groups. Now, the way that we did groups last year was a little bit prescriptive and a little bit kind of, we played a kind of game to kind of get people in different groups. And the idea of this was that we didn't necessarily want people to stay in the groups that they kind of came with, if they came with colleagues or if they came with people from the same project. The idea last year wasn't necessarily to all focus on the same open source software project. It was to work on design related contributions and skills that could be submitted to any project. But the projects centered around open source software that helped with censorship circumvention and like internet shutdowns. So the focus was more on like, how can design help us design? How can design methods and doing design and contributing design to open source help us improve open source software technology for internet shutdowns? That was the whole purpose, which we achieved. But this year, it's more about, okay, we have 3 open source software projects that have open issues that we really want to work on that are design related. How can we begin to make design contributions to those issues that are public and out there and need contributions? And how can we sort of in this time that we have cultivated, like really thoughtfully begin to make design contributions to those specific issues. So last year we did a game to get people mixed up and into groups. This year we're going to go back to a previous way that I would help people get into groups, which doesn't necessarily prescribe that they can't stay in their affinity groups, but they can optionally like include new people into their groups. So one of the tricky things about workshops and having group activities in workshops is inevitably you don't know what kind of skills or background people are coming with, unless they all know each other, and often people that know each other want to kind of stay in a group together, and then you'll have people that have come solo and then they'll find it hard to join one of the groups that have kind of formed. And so one of the ways that I think game jams, so video game programming and developed game jams, do this really well is they require everybody to write on sticky notes or pieces of paper. I think it's a skill, what was it? Your name, a skill that you feel like very comfortable with, like, hey, I can do this. I do this every day, or I do this really regularly. I'm really excited or interested in contributing this skill. A skill that you'd like to share with another person, so something that you would love to like help another person with, and something that you'd like to learn more about. And then what kind of projects you want to work on. I think this time what I'm going to do, a skill you are comfortable with focusing your open source software contributions on. So you can have that as UX design, UX and like, I don't know, UI design. A skill that you'd like to learn more about from another person. And then skills you'd like to like practice more. Documentation, writing. Let's say like between 1 to 3 skills you'd like to practice more. And then probably what we need we should make sure that let's just write in here, product manager, the sort of design thinker, the sketcher / UI builder, communicator. And then so everyone, let's make sure actually that these are just like typed out as like number 1, a writer or a product manager, number 2, the design thinker, number 3, get your UI builder, and then number 4, communicator. I think that these are all like the critical sort of roles within like an open source software contribution, for a design related open source software contribution. Everyone can be can choose 1 or more roles to be, and none of them people don't have to be experts, they just have to be willing to perform the role. For now. Okay, so maybe we should actually spend some time talking about roles in open source software. And then, what was it? What do we want? We want to do the issues. We want to spend some time talking about the issues. The issues we have today. The tasks. The tasks, the open source software task issues today. We actually probably want an hour on that. Let's say 1 hour. So 10:30 to 11. Okay, so let's grab that and then add that in here. So we're actually going to really spend time thinking about roles in open source software. Roles. And we're gonna finish at 12. We're gonna finish at 12:30, which is really soon, because then, gosh, it will have been 2 hours of the stream. So we don't want another 15-minute break there. And then we've got 1 hour, so 11 till 12. And then what we'll do is we'll probably 11 till 12, and then what we'll do is we should probably have a little break. We should have a break after roles so people can discuss roles. And then wait, so 10:30 to 11. Right, so we've got 10 till 10:30, 10:30 to 11, then we've got 11 to 11:15. The timings always get me on workshops, and then we've got 11:15 until 12:15. Perfect. To 12:15 p.m. otherwise we're going till midnight. And then we've got 1 hour, so 12 to 1:15, and then we want lunch essentially. And then we've got plus issue translation exercise. Issue translation / understanding exercise. Packet. And then essentially, okay, so 11:15 till 12:15, and then we want lunch, which is going to be no 12:15 till 1 is going to be user insights and research from the field. And that was only, yeah, that was going to be like an hour or 45 minutes. So 12:15 p.m. Until 11:15 to 12:15, 12:15 till 1:15, and then we have lunch 1:15 till 14:15, and then we've really only 14:15. We've only got like 2 hours. Let's just say, let's give us 45 minutes, so that we finish at 1, and then we do have like 1 until 2, then we've got 2, okay, and then we need to finish at 4. Gosh, still a long day. Okay, so just to finish out this stream, we've got user insights, and then essentially we give them options of we give them potential options of how to make a design contribution, and then we can and we also want to give what design contribution to make. You gotta have more time for lunch. You can't have 30 minutes for lunch. You gotta have longer. As long as they're doing some discussion during lunch, and then after lunch, they have information on users. They've thought about they've understood the roles in open source software and what they need to be able to communicate and do. They've looked at issues and understood the issues and translated the issues into sort of a design related challenge. We have a template for that. They have received user research and insight from us as facilitators that they can use to like benchmark their design. They've thought about what kind of contribution is going to be useful to the kind of issue based off of the user. and we've given them some options on different things that they can do for their contribution. They produce that contribution. Produce the contribution. Digitally is recommended, but written is fine. And then we want, so they're going to need like an hour to do that. So 2 till 3. And then from 3 until 4, essentially, it's how to add documentation on a GitHub repo. And they've got an hour to do that, essentially. So it's going to be another tight workshop. Well, we're not asking them to do like a very large contribution. We're just asking them to do like an hour kind of contribution, like what they can manage to get done in an hour, essentially. Okay. Gosh, yes, structuring these sections are going to be critical. Okay, but I feel very confident, which is good. Okay, folks, it's 2 hours since I started the stream. I need to end the stream. Thanks for all the folks that have joined me at the stream while I've been doing various different things. Some open source contributions, some reading, and some planning for an open source software workshop. Who knows what we'll do next time? When is the next stream? Good question. I am going to try to resume like Tuesday around these kinds of times. I had a couple of weeks where I had a couple of weeks vacation, and then where I was in a completely different time zone. And last week I was still very injured. So I think it's still gonna happen Tuesday around this time. It's unlikely that they'll ever happen on a Monday again. But yeah, this should be a fairly regular time now for streaming. Oh, hey CB. I'm just about to finish streaming. But yeah, I think the challenge of finding regular streaming times is always really going to be really challenging for me, given that sometimes my schedule gets really complicated. But yeah, thanks for joining me. It is indeed time for lunch. I didn't actually finish my breakfast, even though I said at the beginning of stream that I was going to finish my breakfast on stream, but I didn't, because I was too busy. But thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time when there is a stream. But yeah, keep an eye on the schedule page of my Twitch or Twitter for the next time. Bye, folks.